What's up, everybody? ODC here, and I'm back with another action figure review. Today's review, we're going to take a special look at a special character. Personally, he's one of my favorite characters, and I wanted to take a little bit of a history look and a review on both versions of Barrel Roll that I do have. I'm going to go through kind of the history, the backstory of Barrel Roll. So, this is going to be a little bit of a longer video. So sit back, relax, and let's have some fun here. But this is G.I. Joe's Barrel Roll. He is part of the Air Force Special Ops, and he's pretty cool. He does have quite the lineage, quite the story behind him. In his first appearance, he was had quite a big role with his attack on Cobra Island, and actually helping decimate Cobra Island. And if you haven't checked out that run, you should check out Image Comics' run from 2001 to 2005 called Devil's Due. If you haven't checked that out, you're doing yourself a disservice if you're a G.I. Joe fan. Very good story, and definitely check that out, so recommend on my side. But Barrel Roll's first toy appearance was actually in 2003, a part of the G.I. Joe vs. Cobra Spy Troops line. He did include a glider, a M40A5 sniper rifle, a helmet, a breastplate, and gauntlets. And you're probably scratching your head and asking yourself, breastplate and gauntlets? What the heck's that for? Well, Barrel Roll in the comic was actually disguised, when he infiltrated Cobra Island, he was actually disguised as a Raptor Viper glider pilot. So when you see his first appearance figure, he does look like he's actually a part of Cobra, but that's just his undercover disguise. Maybe for his first appearance, it would have been made a little bit more sense to go with a traditional Joe look for him, but either way, his second appearance, it came out in 2004, which was only a year later, and it was much more of a subdued, a little bit more of a military G.I. Joe, more feel to him. His actual look, and he also included, I think it was the same glider, a helmet, and his same M40A5 sniper rifle, and that was a part of the Venom versus Valor line, if I could talk properly. His third toy appearance was in 2005, part of the DTC line, and that is the figure that you see on your left right here. There we go, this guy right here, and he's one of my favorite DTC figures. I'll get into that in a little bit as to why, but the DTC line, if you did miss out on it, or maybe you just kind of passed on it, was an online exclusive line. Some of the figures are, vary. Barrel Roll, doesn't go for too much. I think you can probably get them around the $10 to $13 price point. I have seen him actually go for less, but he included what you see with him, which was his Tac Vest, which is removable, his helmet, his sniper rifle, which did change from the M40A5 to a bullpup, which is unique and cool, but don't necessarily know if I like it too much. And it does include a removable bipod. So that's pretty cool. And the helmet is also removable. And yeah, so that's actually a really cool figure, which you see right in front of you. His fourth appearance line, toy appearance line, was his last, and that's the one you see on the right here from the FSS Club, and that's the G.I. Joe exclusive club, and he was a part of the FSS Wave 1, and he included what you see on him, which is a removable parachute pouch, a sniper rifle, what looks to be a 1911 pistol, a removable helmet, which is essentially the same helmet that came in the DTC line that you see right next to him. It's just colored differently. So you can see the colors did change a little bit on him as far as mixing things up. And then he also does come with a glider on his back. And we'll get to all of that in just a little bit when I go through accessories for both, detail, and we'll go through the figures. His name is Dwight Stahl, and if you are an action figure analyst or historian, you know who Dwight Stahl is. He's the guy that essentially runs the Marvel Legends brand now, and this was actually his character. It was given to him when he was running things for G.I. Joe. He is no longer doing that, but they kind of gave him a little character to go off of, which I don't necessarily mind. I don't think he really has any characteristics of Dwight Stahl. He's just kind of named after him. I see Barrel Roll as kind of his own character. But, yeah, that's pretty much it. Devil's Due, the whole run for Devil's Due in 2001 to 2005 was about 43 issues. So if you guys want to outsource those, you could probably find them. I actually picked up the whole run for around $30. I don't believe they have any trades out right now, so I'm just a little FYI right there for them. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the quick history of Barrel Roll. If I ever do get those other figures, which I probably would like to outsource or find down the road, then I will do an updated evolution of Barrel Roll. But anyway, moving on, we're going to get to the figures. We're going to start off on the left, and we'll start with the DTC figure, go through all of that. Parts, accessories, paint, detail, everything. And we'll be right back. Okay, first up, we're going to show the figure in the card. This is what he looks like. This is what he comes with. Helmet, 1911 bullpup rifle, which is tucked behind him. No display stand with the DTC line, unfortunately. It does say codename Barrel Roll Marksman. Really good card artwork. I love this DTC card artwork. Very underrated. Flipping it around to the back, there is his read up. If you want to pause that and read it, you can. Here are some of the other figures in the line. You've got Salvo, Barrel Roll, Footloose, Major Blood, Snow Serpent, and the Range Viper. Okay, and we're back with the figure in general. I do have to point this out right away. I did buy this figure loose. He did not come with the correct gray 1911, so I had an extra 1911. I just kind of threw it in his holster there on the side. So if you do see a black one, he's supposed to come with a gray one, but I had to replace it because he just simply didn't even come with one. Got this figure on the cheap side, so that's why he didn't include everything, but I'm pretty happy to have him in general. I do, I love and I hate this this bullpup that he comes with. It's a very unique design. It's not necessarily an AUG or anything like that, AUG, but you can see a little stressing right here, and that's probably a little worrisome, but as long as I don't overstress it, it'll be fine. It's kind of like a futuristic, look how bulky that back is. That's kind of what bugs me about the rifle, but overall I can give Hasbro credit for trying to create something a little bit more original. So I don't mind it too much. He definitely is not going to be staring on the sights of this. It's just kind of a display piece with him. It's not form meets function when it comes to looking down the sights of this, unless maybe he's laying prone. But then again, you can't get his neck going back to look down the sights. The bipod is a two-piece. Well, the rifle itself is a two-piece with the bipod, and you do want to get the bipod facing this way with the lip. See this little lip right here on it? You want to have that lip facing in towards the gun so it fits right into that little slot, and that is how you properly put on his bipod. Like I said, pretty, I'm kind of on the fence whether I like it or not, but it is a unique design, so I can give them credit for that. Not sure what these peg holes are on the side. Maybe this gun was given to another figure before and it had an extra function or something like that, but there you go. There's the muzzle up there, very looks like it's got a compensator on it of some sort. The sights right here, everything looks pretty good. Very bulky, but very futuristic looking. The figure itself, it's not that bad. The helmet, once you take the helmet off, the helmet is a little bit weird, but we'll get to that in a second. The figure itself, and let me get his arm down, is actually quite cool. I think the Tac Vest actually here, and let me point this out, this is actually the Tac Vest that they used for Crosshair. Originally they were going to give Crosshair the Tac Vest from the original, like I did with my custom Marauders video I did, this is actually the vest that they gave that crosshair instead. So it does fit on that body. I tried using this on a Marauder body, this Tac Vest, and it's just entirely too skinny. So if you're going to use it on a G.I. Joe body. They run a little bit skinnier around the waist section and the chest section. So this should sit on a modern Joe figure, but not a Marauders figure. So just to point that out for those of you watching that are Marauders collectors. Figure has a insignia on the side. It is not, I don't believe that's an Air Force logo. Air Force logo would be a set of wings with a sword going through it and then a star on the top. It does have a star, but there's no wings and there's no sword, so I'm guessing that's just the G.I. Joe symbol for the time. Flipping around the other side, you just have a blank pocket. Underneath, you just have like a greenish shirt. You do have a tan with some darker tan camo going throughout. Then you have some brown pants. You have a knife on this side. You have a gun holster on this side, which is, we'll get to the gun holster in a second, but he does have some gray. I really do like the plethora of different colors that we have here. Not everything needs to match. It's not a fashion show here. I know there's a lot of G.I. Joe collectors out there like, everything must match. But not for me. I don't really care. It doesn't matter. It's as long as they're tactical looking, I'm good with it. Oops, I'm dropping the figure. And we'll get to the holster in a second. That's what happens with this holster. He does have some brown knee pads and brown boots. And he does look like he could fit in anywhere. Maybe not Arctic style, but he does look like he can fit in the majority of different special ops missions or missions in general that he could be deployed in. Fitting the helmet back on is a very unique helmet, a very iconic helmet for him. This is kind of the helmet that he's just always had. He's always had a helmet with a microphone on it. I don't mind it too much. It does sit on the head a little bit odd, but the figure's head is a little bit on the larger side due to the new sculpt era. But it's still a really nice figure. I love the web gear. The web gear looks so good. Very good job on the sculpted detail for the web gear. And like I said, you can see this gaping hole, and I'll get to this issue right now with this holster. The holster isn't just entirely too gaping and wide. And even the gun that he does come with, which is very, very, very similar to this version, which I will show you right here, which I'm almost convinced it's the same thing, but it's not. It's not the same sculpt as the version that he does come with. It's not the same one. It does have a little bit different of a sculpt, but this is the one I just kind of gave him. It is around the same size, and even the one that he did come with doesn't fit all that well in the holster here, as we'll get to right now. As you can see, even though that this isn't the one that he did come with, the one that he came with was flopping around, and I'm assuming that the previous owner just probably, it got lost from him maybe just picking up the figure and it flying out, because it doesn't take much for it to move around. You can see it jiggling around there. But this is around the same size that 1911 was. If they would have brought the sculpt up a little bit further, it wouldn't have this issue. I guess if it really does bother you, could always drill a little hole on the bottom, customize it a little bit, and then stick the snout of the gun through, or the muzzle of the gun through that hole, and it'll sit a little bit more proper, a little bit tighter in there. But that is just a faulty design right there. So, still a cool looking figure. I like the paint scheme. Overall, really have always kind of digged his design. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the DTC barrel roll as far as sculpt and detail go. Let's get into his articulation, if we can focus today. I don't know what's going on. The head can swivel. Oh, let's take the helmet off. The head can swivel. And I'm assuming that's pretty much it. It can move back and forth a little bit. So there's a little bit of like old school jive turkey right there. Right there, but not too much. It can pivot a little bit side to side. I don't think it's meant to, but it does wiggle a little bit side to side. Arms go up, down. There's a full 360 rotation in the arm. single bend at the elbow, a swivel at the elbow, which I love, and then he does have a swivel wrist, so you got some pretty good range of motion right there. He does have a swivel at the waist, he does have a pivot, he does have an O-ring, just to point that out. Taking him off his stand here. His legs can go forward. There goes the gun again. They can't go back, so good range of motion there. Single bend at the knee, and that's pretty much it. His feet are fixed, so there's no swivels there. So not too bad. Very reminiscent to a little bit of a new sculpt slash vintage Joe. A little bit of updated swivels and for the elbow instead of the bicep swivel that they used to have. But overall, I'm pretty pleased with the figure. And while he might not be, my favorite figure of all time, I think as far as DTC figures go, he's one of my favorites as far as that line's concerned. Okay, and there's Barrel Roll holding both of his guns, so he doesn't have too much of an issue. Even the one that he didn't technically come with, which is pretty much around the same exact size as the one that he's supposed to come with, he can hold it in either hand. To note this, I know the holster's on this side, and I don't think he is technically a lefty. As far as what I've seen in the comics, he is a righty. He does have a righty trigger finger, no trigger finger on this side. So that's something to point out. Even though he's got the holster on this side, which would make him a lefty, I don't think he technically is. So, I don't know. Let me know in the comments below if I'm incorrect about that, but I'm pretty sure he's a righty. Okay, so that's pretty much going to do it for the DTC Barrel Roll action figure. We're going to move on next to the FSS figure, and then I have a special surprise for you guys at the very end, so stay tuned for that. But let's move on to the FSS figure. Okay, and here we have the 2013 Wave 1 from the FSS Club. This is that version of Barrel Roll, the more updated, modern-looking Barrel Roll. I think it's a decent update. A few things are different here. Pretty sure that he has this is a reused rifle. It's been with a plethora of different people, like I want to say Rakondo had this and a few others. It does have this wrapping on it. It's not necessarily my favorite rifle. It's not a bad one. It does look like it's semi 50 caliber with this muzzle right here, and then the ammo box also makes it look like it's a little bit of a larger, longer round. The scope also has a little shade on it, so maybe that's to deflect any sunlight going into it, or to give up his position as far as sunlight glaring from the lens out to somebody else trying to find him. Anyway, the figure does reuse the same helmet as the DTC helmet. It's not really retooled or anything like that. They did go for a little bit of a smaller head, so that helmet actually does sit a little bit better on this head than the DTC one. I don't know the 100% of the recipe. I want to say that the torso is from Pursuit of Cobra Desert Assault Duke. I think the forearms and the hands are from Resolute Flint and Duke, possibly. And then the legs are from Pursuit of Cobra Zartan legs. So, and they obviously have reused these quite a bit. I'm not sure where the shoulders are from, the arms with the rolled up sleeves. It might just be Duke, to be honest with you. Pursuit of Cobra Duke, and then they just swapped the forearms. So that might be the recipe right there. Don't quote me 100% on that, but I'm just going off the top of my head as far as that's concerned. The rifle that he does come with here is an up-close look, and as you can see, what I was talking about with that ammo box right there, or the magazine, excuse me. You can see that it is a rather large magazine. He does have some nice wrapping on his 50 cal. It looks to be almost like a Barrett. Here is an actual Barrett, and the reason why I'm saying that is because you see the little holes in the back of that stock. You can actually see it on this, which is a little bit more of an updated 50 cal. So it looks to me like he's got a scaled down 50 caliber BFG, to be honest with you. But still a nice sculpt for it. I like the little wrappings on it, on the rear end and on the barrel. That looks cool. And also the holes on the barrel look to be, or the handguard, excuse me, look to be like a 50 caliber. So I do like the sculpt of this scope. It is quite a good sculpt, very unique looking. And then the muzzle, there's the muzzle tip right there. As you can see, it is very 50 caliber-esque. And I'll bring back in my other one just to kind of prove my point there. It is not the same, but similar in a way. Okay, next up we've got his gray, I'm guessing this is a 1911, and Air Force Special Forces actually do use 1911s, so I don't mind that he came with this. The original, the DTC one came with it, and this one does as well. So nice little update. It is in a gray plastic, but there you go. There's 1911. Next up we have another look at the helmet. It's just a gray plastic for this version, where the DTC one had a black version. So there you go, same sculpt and everything, so nothing too different. There's some holes on the top of his head right there, breathable holes right there, so pretty cool. There you go. Okay, the last piece that he comes with, I mean, he does come with his parachute, but and it is removable around his waist, and I guess it is technically an accessory, but it's already strapped to him, so I'm just going to leave it. But just to point that out, you can remove that parachute, which is wrapped around his waist there. Anyway, talking about the glider next, he does have some articulation to it right here, some little fins in the back to kind of articulate, so maybe if he's changing direction or something like that, you can see it does have propulsion right here, so it's a very updated glider. We've seen this glider numerous times with other figures, whether it's JoeCon exclusives, other FSS figures, and regular retail releases, or even online exclusives. We've seen these before. The wings can go up and down if you want to have it like that. And there is the nice detail on the inside. Does come with a back peg right there. So pretty cool nonetheless. I like the paint deco. Looks nice. Pretty cool. And I know I'm going to get this question, so I'll just answer it right now. If you're wondering if the DTC helmet will fit on this FSS figure, yes it will. So if you want to have him with the black helmet instead, you can. If you don't like the gray, you want to switch it up a little bit, you can go that route. Okay, as far as barrel rolls articulation does go, his head can swivel at a full 360 rotation. He can look up about that far, he can look down, so not very good in the head as far as range of motion goes. No jive turkeys, no gobbles, not even a little bit. Arms go up about that far, down, full 360 rotation in the arm, single bend at the elbow about 90 degrees, a little bit, actually less than 90 degrees. Swivel in the arm. This is where it gets kind of lackluster for me. Swivel only in the wrist. Yikes. It does have a swivel at the waist. You can remove this parachute pouch if you want to get more range of motion. It just clips right onto this side of the figure. So there is that option as well. But he can pivot side to side. He does have a diaphragm joint, very similar to the rest of the Pursuit of Cobra figures, and he can crunch forward and back. He can also swivel, like I showed. He can do the splits, legs go forward, legs go back a little bit, a double jointed knee, there we go. You can point the toe, point the heel, swivel, and 2 peg holes. Okay, next up is a nice little segment I like to call, Can He Look Down the Sights? And he cannot, let me just say. It might look like he is now, but due to these shit wrists, yeah, he's not even close. He's like a mile away from those sights. You can photo manipulate it to make him look like he's looking down the sights, but yeah, these just swivel wrists are really, really hurting him quite a bit. Kind of wish that they went with the hinge swivel wrists instead. The peg is also not deep enough. As you can see, it's kind of popping out here as soon as I start putting a little bit of pressure there. But just to point that out, no, it's not happening. Okay, next up, here he is with his pistol in his hand, and as you can see, these wrists are really hurting this figure. I think it's the biggest down note to the figure. Just these crappy swivel wrists. I just don't know why they went with this. It's just a terrible decision to go with these wrists. Aesthetically, they look good with the fingerless gloves, but I don't know. Probably could have went with a different forearm for this. He's also the hands are also kind of pointing in a downward motion, so you kind of have to do this little bit of a bend at the elbow to kind of have him hold this, and then he can't get he also can't get his fingers all the way up on there, and if you do, it'll keep popping out because the hands are so tight. He can hold the rifle in this hand though, so I guess if you want him, you got a sniper and he can't really snipe properly. It's just I guess he's a product of the time of 2013, you know. So, but there he is. There's my little segment. Can he look down the sights? Moving on. Okay, so my final thoughts for both figures. I think you know, there's obviously, like I said, they're kind of a product of their time. The early 2010s, and then you've got the early 2000s right here. So in the DTC figure. DTC figure, you know, it did some good things for its time. As far as the new sculpt stuff, I liked it. I still like it. It has its time, but it's, as far as comparing it to like a Marauders figure, it's not even in the same league or department. But you know, for those of you who are vintage fans and like the vintage figures, I think he might actually kind of fit in with your vintage Joes. And just to kind of show you a little comparison here, let me just bring in recoil just to show you what I'm talking about. It's not that far off, I don't think. We'll wait for him to swivel around again, but I think he can work within your vintage Joes. He's a little bit on the taller side, but he's also on a display stand, so I think he can fit in quite well. A little bit of a different anatomy here and there for the upper torso, but he is still an O-ringer, so that is something to point out. Let me just get recoil out of here. As far as the FSS figure, I have my gripes with it. As far as the modern figures go, while I do like a lot of the articulation with the Resolute figures, these were not the arms to go with. As far as from the elbow down. Hate those wrists. You can't look down the sights, and he's a sniper. I mean, they should just, I mean, if a character is a sniper, he should be able to, they should go the extra mile and just kind of play around with things and see if he can actually do things. But, you know, that's probably not what they were going for at the time. At the end of the day, it still is a toy. It's not the biggest deal in the world. I have a solution to that problem, which I'll show you in a second. But overall, aesthetically, he looks great. He can't quite function with the arms and such. The legs are okay. I don't mind the choice for anything else. I like the grays with the tan and the brown. I think it's a really nice selection of colors that you wouldn't necessarily think a character would get. I like the American flag also on his left shoulder. I like the G.I. Joe symbol on the right one. It looks pretty cool. It would have been cool if they could have thrown an Air Force symbol in there with him. Or even, hell, even the Special Forces Air Force logo would have been great. Maybe on his chest or something. Hopefully someone will make a sticker sheet, maybe Marauders Task Force down the road, and I can pop that on this guy. I like the glider. I like the reuse of the glider, even though it has been used with, I want to say, a lot of the Joe Con Sky Patrol figures. A couple of them come with that glider, but I think it's a good reuse. And you could actually, if you do have those Joe Con figures, you could actually probably use barrel roll with those guys, and he would fit in quite well. To me, I know he's always been kind of a glider pilot, but to me, I've always seen him as a helicopter pilot as well. So that's what I like to think he is. He's also a helicopter pilot, and yeah. So overall, I mean, I like them both. There's flaws to them. They're not perfect, but as far as both of them go, you know, overall, I'd give them the 2 thumbs up. I don't think they're horrible figures. They still have good range of motion in the legs. The torsos move. The major gripe that I have with it is that he can't get into that sniping position. You're really going to have to play around with him a lot to get him to do that. But if you're doing photo photography, there's ways around that. I get it. It's just the fact that in the back of my mind, I know he can't get into that position, or at least standing sniping position. But, you know, that's just my gripe with the figure. But overall, 2 thumbs up, and I would recommend them. The FSS figure goes for around $60, so that's a punch to your wallet's gut, to say the least. I don't know if everyone's going to have the budget for that. If you can find them for around 30 or 40, I'd say pull the trigger. Other than that, I'd say pass. But the DTC one's really good for those of you that are a vintage collector. In worst case scenario, you can always go with a Marauders version if you want to, and that's where I'm gonna go next. Okay, so here's my Marauders version of Barrel Roll. I went with the gloveless hands. I just think it helps him stand out a little bit more as far as a character. Everyone usually has gloves. Even the DTC figure that you see right there did not have gloves until the FSS figure. He's the first one to have fingerless gloves. I think I like him without gloves. I think he looks pretty cool. I did give him a little bit of pieces. I'll go through the whole recipe. If you want to go ahead and use that recipe, it's up to you. If you want to make your own, all the more power to you. But this, to me, is the definitive updated version of Barrel Roll. I gave him a little bit more of an updated look. Not too much updated, but you can tell he's a little bit more accurate to what the Air Force Special Forces do use. I gave him an EMR, or you can call it an EBR. I know it's the M14 EBR, and then it's I believe the M39 EMR, which is actually the M39 EMR is what Special Forces do use as far as for sniping and marksmanship. So I gave him that. I went with a little bit more of a modern update look for him. I did change a couple things on him. I did give him, this is not accurate. I know I'm going to get someone in the comments that that's not an accurate symbol. I know it's not an accurate symbol. I don't have the sticker for it, but the Marauders Task Force sticker sheet had something that was close to it. At least it did have wings with a sword through it, or so I wouldn't have given him one at all. The actual correct logo for it is actually silver and white and blue, and it actually has wings with a sword going through it and then a star up top, and it's in a nicer little crest look. But that's actually the Special Force, and it says Air Force Special Force Command Unit or other things. Anyway, I gave him a flag on this side. I was going to give him a sergeant logo, and I wanted to make him a little bit older, so I wanted him to give him instead of being a staff sergeant, where in the DTC line, he's actually just a regular sergeant. He's an E4. In the FSS line, he's an E5, which is a staff sergeant. And then for this, I wanted to make him an upgrade from that. So when I do actually find some actual accurate Air Force symbols, I'll probably give him those. I didn't want to give him an Army symbol because he's not Army, he's Air Force. So I just left it blank for now. Maybe I'll just draw one in there or something. I did actually just glue these ammunition rounds. I know he does use magazines. I don't know why I said that. Magazines for the EMR, but I gave him these anyway. You know, a good sniper should always have extra rounds on him. I gave him clips on the front of his pouch. Hopefully he doesn't fall off the stand that he keeps wanting to. There we go. So I'll just bring him in a little bit closer. Let me move his hands out of the way. I did give him the parachute pouch in the front. The Tac Vest is from Marauders Task Force. The majority of the stuff that you're seeing here is from Marauders. I just glued that little radio right there. I know he has a helmet radio, but you know, just in case. Gave him another radio right there on the side. And I cut the peg off and I glued it to the side of the the Tac Vest. The parachute is actually from the 50th anniversary Ace, and I cut the straps off and I just glued it to the Tac Vest, and then these pockets, these ammunition pockets, are just glued in with pegs. The harness, the leg harness, the parachute leg harness, is actually from the Rise of Cobra Firefly, with the one with the like kind of neon green goggles. So I gave him that, and then I cut the peg off of this gray holster and I just glued it to the harness, and I gave him a 1911, and that's pretty much it as far as that's concerned. The head is, I think, from the 25th anniversary Ripcord, so I had to go with a little bit of a skinnier head because that helmet, it does run a little bit small, but I think it's a good size for him. And yeah, that's essentially my version of barrel roll. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Also, you know, I have another little segment, so stay tuned. I'm going to show, if I were to give him a vehicle, what vehicle would I give barrel roll? Let's find out. Okay, and here is the vehicle that I would give barrel roll. It's the G.I. Joe versus Cobra Night Attack Helicopter or Chopper, whichever you want to use. This is one of my favorite vehicles. I picked this up, I want to say, a couple years ago when I actually went to go visit Strident. And yeah, this is the vehicle I would definitely give him. I think it fits his role as a pilot or as a helicopter pilot. I think that works perfectly. I guess if you wanted to give him a plane, you could. I think Chopper fits him just perfect. All vintage and modern figures and Marauders figures can fit into this Chopper. And like I said, if you're a modern collector or even if you're a vintage collector, I think this is a vehicle that you need to have, you should have, and it's fantastic. It does have some gimmicks here and there, but it's not too crazy where they were going a little bit more gimmick heavy. I know a lot of people don't like gimmicks. They don't bother me. I think the more the merrier. But and as long as they work within the vehicle, I think it works fine. Yeah, this is a beautiful, beautiful vehicle. I love it, and I think it fits so well for him. And there's missiles on the side. There's a big gun turret over there. Expect a full review on this in the future, but I just kind of wanted to do a little special showcase for barrel roll. I know a lot of people probably don't know of barrel roll too much. Like I said, you definitely got to go check out Devil's Due. He is quite showcased in that quite a bit as a major player. He is the brother of Bomb Strike and Blackout, and he does come to blows and does have to deal with the fact that his brother has switched to Cobra. And that's, you know, it's always kind of like a really cool part of his story, having to deal with that, him and his sister having to deal with Blackout. So go check that out. No spoilers here. I don't want to be spoiler-esque, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this special video. I want to do a special video on some of my favorite characters and some of my favorite figures in the future too. So expect a couple of these sprinkled in the near future. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you for watching as always, and I'll see you guys on the flip side.